Hello and welcome to Sri Raj IAS. My name is Shashank Roy and let's talk about today's topic. We have taken some of the most important articles published in The Hindu. So here it is. Before we proceed, let's have a food for thought. Don't think too much, just get started. The majority of us are suffering from the overthinking disease. Majority of us are suffering from overthinking disease. We keep on thinking about what will happen if I fail. The fear of rejection is stopping us. So stop thinking and start doing. So just get started. Now, here in Delhi, the Hindu News Analysis, the first article is India has sufficient stocks of fuel commodities of the government. Prime Minister Modi has suggested Indians to take some austerity measures. Austerity measures. We will talk about it in another topic. V- VVG Ramji Act to take effect on 1st of July. We will cover it this article in detail. Belated warning: Narendra Modi's suggestions to Indians imply a serious economic impact. So this is what we are going to cover today, wherein we will talk about what Prime Minister Modi suggested before going for his foreign visit. What Prime Minister Modi suggested, right? But I want to, before in the beginning of the session, I want to cover some of the most heavyweight topics on a priority basis. So, for me, the priority article is India Vietnam relations. There is an article given by Harsh V. Pant. There is an article, yeah, this is one. A new phase in the India Vietnam strategic partnership. So, we will start with it. Eat your ugly frog first. What do I mean is that if there are 10 number of works, you should choose the heaviest one, or you should choose that work that you don't like. So, eat the ugly frog first. So, here it is. A new phase in India Vietnam strategic partnership, written by Harsh Vipant and Pratnashree Basu. What this article is all about: India Vietnam relations. India is, in the year 2025, the year 2025 will be remembered for the global order, the rule based world order, going derailed. So, apart from, amid all these chaotic situation, India is reaching out to the countries in Southeast Asian region, in Middle East, in Europe, in USA, in Latin America, Canada, and Australia, and India is trying to forge new alliances in the changing world scenario. So, India Vietnam strategic partnership, a new phase. GS paper 2 talks about, this topic will cover India's Act East policy, India's Indo Pacific strategy, ASEAN centrality, India Vietnam relations. In GS paper 3, this topic will cover supply chain resilience, critical minerals, defense exports, and maritime security. Team, instead of reading an article just for the sake of reading, you must keep in mind the UPSC syllabus integration. This is the crux. If you don't integrate UPSC syllabus in what you are reading for UPSC, you are going nowhere. You are not going to get the result, especially if the matter is related to GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. These two papers are one of the most some of the most dynamic papers in UPSC. In GS paper 3, supply chain resilience is going to be a hot cake, right? Then critical minerals, defense exports, because India is trying to become a net exporter of defense equipment. Last year, we have exported $4 billion of defense equipments. Now, maritime security is again a recurring theme, especially in the context of US-Iran war, when Iran launched a missile in Indian Ocean region and USA destroyed a Iranian warship in India's neighborhood. So keep in mind GS paper 3, supply chain resilience, critical minerals, defense exports, and maritime security. In GS paper 2, India's Act East policy, Indo Pacific strategy, ASEAN centrality, India Vietnam relationship. Again, what is happening in South China Sea? What is happening in South China Sea? Countering China in Indian Ocean region, right? This is also one of the agenda. Let's talk about this article. Now, the visit of Vietnamese President To Lam marks a major upgrade in India-Vietnam relationship. Now, partnership is moving from symbolic cooperation to strategic and economic integration. Team, when I say strategic and economic integration, it has a deeper meaning. When we talk about strategic and economic integration, it will happen only when the two countries, India India and Vietnam has some complementarities. This strategic and economic integration will take place only when these two countries have something in common. Something in common. For example, both countries have a common problem with China. Both countries has a common problem with regards to territorial integrity. Territorial integrity. Again, Vietnam is indispensable for India. Why? Because India wants to get a deeper integration into Southeast Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia, right? So understand this one. Strategic and economic integration will take place only when the two countries has a common problem. When the two countries have some plus and minuses. Both countries can complement each other. Both countries have some of their strengths and weaknesses, and both can collaborate together. So keep in mind strategic and economic integration. Focus on defense, technology, trade, energy, and supply chain. So the first line says strategic and economic integration, it will happen. And now when we say strategic and economic integration, it means that we are going in defense. This is strategic, technology, trade, energy, and supply chains. Reflects growing Indo-Pacific geopolitical competition. So I hope you got the point. Next is strategic significance, Indo-Pacific convergence. Now, Indo-Pacific, India is at the center of US Indo-Pacific strategy. Now, India is strengthening Act East policy, which means that India wants a deeper engagements with the countries in East and Southeast Asia. Vietnam countering China's assertiveness in South China Sea. Now, the shared concern are the common points between two countries are maritime coercion, supply chain dependence, and strategic autonomy. Both countries support unbridled access to sea lines of communication. Both of them, they prefer to have a global rule-based order. Both countries support territorial integrity. And China is at the center of all these three. So here, the shared concern between two countries is maritime coercion, supply chain dependence, and strategic autonomy. Objective is to build a stable and rule-based Indo-Pacific. And Indo-Pacific has become a new battlefield. Now, defense cooperation, what are we going to do? As I said, that India is trying to become a net exporter of defense equipments. India has earned 4 billion US dollars in 2025. So key developments are defense dialogues and maritime cooperation, training assistance and defense credit lines given to Vietnam, possible BrahMos missile export discussion, and China is raising objection about it. By the way, China has no moral ground to raise objection about it because China is supporting wholeheartedly to Pakistan and in making Pakistan a net defense exporter. Now, target is strengthening deterrence capability in Indo-Pacific region, and which is a sensitive issue due to China factor. So this is the defense cooperation, defense dialogue and maritime cooperation between two countries. Training assistance and defense credit line means funding and giving funds to Vietnam at a concessional rate. Possible BrahMos missile export discussion, which will be a win-win situation for India. Now, economic and supply chain partnership. Now, bilateral trade between India and Vietnam crossed 16 billion, and by 2030 we want to make it to 25 billion. What are the areas of cooperation? Areas of cooperation are critical minerals, semiconductor ecosystem, digital payments, supply chain diversification. Why supply chain diversification? Because India does not want to invite any kind of risk with regards to critical industries. Critical industries, right? And again, there is a word decoupling and disengaging, right? So instead of totally being dependent on China, what India is doing, India is de-risking itself, disengaging itself, decoupling with China, and India is diversifying its supply chain needs. Now, cooperation in critical minerals, semiconductor ecosystem, digital payments, and supply chain diversification. Team, remember digital payment ecosystem? Do you remember digital public goods infrastructure? Digital public goods infrastructure. India has done a commendable job in digital public goods infrastructure. And for example, India has Aadhaar, India has UPI, India has IMPS, India has DigiLocker, India has DigiYatra, India has Bhashini app, India has uh, India has multiple digital tools which are a part of digital public goods infrastructure, and India is sharing this digital public goods infrastructure with other countries in African continent, in India's neighborhood such as Sri Lanka, in Southeast Asian nations, and among the BRICS nations as well. Okay, so remember this one. What? Supply chain diversification, digital payments, semiconductor ecosystem, and critical minerals. Now, regional importance. Regional importance is India, Vietnam, Japan, Australia, USA form a part of wider strategic balancing in Indo-Pacific against Chinese aggression. Against Chinese aggression or rising footprint or rising footprint of rising footprint of China in Indo-Pacific or Indian Ocean region in the name of Belt and Road Initiative and Maritime Silk Route. So the purpose is India, along with other like-minded countries who are facing the same kind of threat from China, that is India, Vietnam, Japan, Australia, USA, and there is already a Quad formation. Quad form part of wider strategic balancing in Indo-Pacific. Now, all these countries have a common traits, and what is that? They support rule of law, maritime security, and ASEAN centrality. Again, these countries also promote a multipolar Indo-Pacific order. Multipolar Indo-Pacific order. Now, the key challenges that these countries are facing. First is implementing gaps in trade and defense deals. These are the warnings. The article says that these are the areas where India needs to work. Implementation gaps are there, and implementation gap is one of the biggest problem in India when it comes in terms of collaboration or the trade related agreements with other countries. So India has to do a lot of work in implementation gap. Again, geopolitical pressure from China. No, you may love China, you may hate China, but you cannot ignore China. China is deeply embedded in the global supply chain. It will take at least a decade or two to to launch India from that launch China from that position. China is contributing at least 28 to 30% of the global trade, especially in manufacturing. It contributes more than 30%. So you may hate China, you may love China, but you cannot ignore China, and this is the reality. So what is required is geopolitical pressure from China, because China is creating geopolitical pressure because China is abundant in critical minerals. China is abundant in critical minerals, and China is weaponizing. China is weaponizing critical minerals. Right? Logistics and legal bottlenecks and financial and technological constraints between these two countries. So these are the key challenges. These are the regional importance. These are the digital payments of goods, infrastructure, economic and supply chain partnership, defense cooperation between Vietnam. Now next is mnemonic. How will you remember India-Vietnam relations? Because in mains examination, you will not get time to write whatever you want. You will have limited space, limited time, and limited word. So VISTA will stand for Vietnam as a strategic partner with India. It will lead to Indo-Pacific balancing. It will lead to supply chain diversification. It will lead to trade and technology cooperation. And Vietnam is at the center of ASEAN or India's Act East policy. Now the key objective strengthening Indo-Pacific presence, expanding defense exports, build a resilient supply chain, counter strategic dependence on China, and enhance ASEAN engagement. So these are the key objective, and here is the mind map related to it. So this is it in this article. Let's talk about another article. This was one of the largest article published in the Hindu. So this is all about solid waste management. Let's have a look at it. This solid waste management is not a standalone topic. बच्चे लोग, solid waste management, solid waste management is not a standalone topic. It's not a standalone topic. Solid waste management is a part of urbanization. Urbanization is an umbrella term. बच्चे लोग, urbanization is an umbrella term. Urbanization is an umbrella term, and solid waste management is a part or subset of urbanization. Is that clear? Let me make it clear. Now look at this one. The core topic will be urbanization and associated issues. Urbanization and associated issues, and solid waste management is a subset of urbanization. So my question to you is, what are the challenges associated with urbanization? Challenges as well as opportunities. Challenges as well as opportunities associated with urbanization. So we will not talk only about the solid waste management and the recent amendment in 2025. We will also talk about the solid waste urbanization and associated issues, and then we will talk about solid waste management, and then we will talk about the recent amendments and the problem with these amendments. So here it is, urbanization in India, right? This is a topic related to GS paper 1, urbanization. Now urbanization and associated challenges. If you look at urbanization, if you look at uncontrolled migration, what will happen? Look at here. The migration is a recurring theme in Indian context. Migration. Why migration happens? Migration happens because people lack job opportunities in their homeland, in their area, in their state. That's why they migrate. And when they migrate, sometimes they may be skilled and sometimes they may not be skilled. If they are not skilled, what will happen? They will start living in, if they do not have job, that means they might be illiterate, they might be unemployed, they might be poor, they may be indulged in crime and others. These are, it's a kind of web. It's a kind of web of urbanization or unplanned urbanization or uncontrolled migration. So slums, unhygienic condition, communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, lifestyle modification, migration, overcrowding, stretching of overburdened system. So this is a web of urbanization. Now look at this one. This is another web. You can have a look at it when you get time. Now, urbanization in India, basic problems of urbanization. In India, urbanization is lopsided, which means that India's urbanization is unplanned. India's urbanization is unplanned. Lopsided urbanization, faulty planning, inadequate housing facilities, presence of slums, and environmental degradation. These are the repercussions of unplanned urbanization. Now, here it is. Effects of urbanization on society. It is leading to environmental problem. It will leading to regional inequality. It is leading to slum and problems of conflict. It is leading to traffic snarls. It is leading to garbage and sewage problems and obstructed water supply. So this is urbanization. This is the basic problem with urbanization and effects of urbanization on Indian society. Now let's talk about Solid Waste Management Rules 2026. Recently, Solid Waste Management Act 2016 was amended, and this article is all about criticizing this amendment, that how this Solid Waste Management Rules 2026 is ignoring the ground reality and why it will not meet its intended objective. In 2016, in 2019, there was UPSC prelims question. This was UPSC prelims question in 2029, 2019. As per Solid Waste Management Rules 2016 in India, which one of the following statement is correct? Waste generated has to segregate waste into 5 categories. Rules are applicable to notified urban local bodies, notified towns, and all industrial township only. Which means that these rules are not applicable to rural areas. The rules provided for exact and elaborate criteria for the identification of sites for landfills and waste processing facilities. It is mandatory on the part of waste generator that the waste generated in one district cannot be moved to another district. So which among the following is the right one? And answer is C. C is the correct answer. The rules provided for exact and elaborate criteria for the identification of sites for landfill and waste processing facilities. So since this act has been amended in 2016, there is a possibility for a repetition of this question. Again, integrate sustainable development goals. Integrate sustainable development goals here. Goal number 11 is about sustainable cities and communities. Goal number 12 is responsible consumption and production. Again, we can also integrate some other goals such as affordable and clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption, climate action, life below water, and life on land. So, learn to integrate sustainable development goals. Now, solid waste management rules. Let's talk about the syllabus integration. Let's talk about syllabus integration. Now in GS paper 2, this will cover center-state relations. We'll talk about Article 253 and federalism, because Article 253 gives unbridled power to the central government to encroach into any state subject if the central government is trying to meet any international obligation, or if central government is trying to implement any rule, implement any law to meet any international obligation. Article 253, local self-government and cooperative federalism. So this is not only a solid waste management issue, this is also related to center-state relations, Article 253 and its application, local self-government, cooperative federalism. In GS paper 3, it's solid waste management, urban pollution, sustainable development, and circular economy. Let's talk about this article. What the article says? The article says that this article criticizes the Solid Waste Management Rule 2026 for promoting a highly centralized and bureaucratic model of waste governance. Mainly, the writer says that ideally it should be bottom-up approach. It should be bottom-up approach when we talk about the waste management in India. But what is happening? It has become a top-down approach, which is not accepted, which is not justified here. So what this article says, this article is criticizing the solid waste management rules 2026 for promoting a highly centralized, bureaucratic, top-down model of waste governance in India. It argues that waste management is fundamentally a state and local subject, but the center is increasingly expanding its control using constitutional and environmental law mechanism. So by using Article 253, what central government is doing? Central government is encroaching upon the state subject, such as this one. Now look at this one, Article 253. What Article 253 says? That it empowers the Parliament to make laws on state list subject for implementing any international treaty, global conventions, or international environmental obligations. Let's say if India is going for COP30, there is a new convention. India becomes a signatory of that convention. India will come back to India, and under Article 253, India will be able to make any law, no matter whether that law is related to a state subject or a central subject. Article 253 empowers the Parliament to make any law to meet any international treaty, global convention, international environmental obligation. The Solid Waste Management Rule derive authority from Environmental Protection Act 1986 and 1972 Stockholm Convention, Stockholm Conference. Now, why is this controversial? Because there are our entire Indian Constitution has divided all the subjects into three categories: the state list, union list, and concurrent list. The union list is the exclusive privilege of the central government. The state list is the exclusive privilege of the state government, and the concurrent list is the list in which on the topic listed under concurrent list can be the law can be made by the central government or state government both. Now, normally subject like public health, sanitation and waste management and local governance, they fall under state list and the 12th schedule of the constitution. But what is happening here under Article 253, what central government is doing, central government is encroaching upon the state list. What central government is doing? Framing nationwide environmental regulation, override state level flexibility, and expand central oversight into local governance areas. Now, when we talk about the solid waste management, every city has its own capacity and weaknesses. Every state has their own capacity and weaknesses. We have different food habits, we have different social behavior, we have also behavior and attitude related to cleanliness and hygiene and solid waste management. So there cannot be a top down approach. Every state, every district, every panchayat must evolve their own way to handling their garbage management. Instead of a top down approach that the central government is dictating the terms to all over India to follow what they have dictated. So, however, Article 253, it has what central government is doing: framing nationwide environmental regulation, override state level flexibility, expanding central oversight into local governance areas. What the criticism is, center is using environmental regulation to increasingly occupy administrative spaces traditionally managed by state and municipalities. As I mentioned, that in Indian federal structure, federation means cooperation. When it comes to waste management, every state has its own capacity and own weaknesses. Every state has some innovative ideas to be implemented. So the freedom must be given to the panchayat level, to municipal corporation, to cantonment board, to any other municipal body to manage their own waste first. If we find a suitable or implementable idea from any of the panchayat or urban local bodies, we can implement it across India. But at least we should give these municipal corporation and panchayat an opportunity to handle their own garbage management. Instead of a top-down approach, there should be a bottom-up approach. Now, what are the 2026 rules? It says it's top-down governance model. It says central monetary system. It implements central monetary system, uniform compliance structure, and standardized national rules. So it's a top-down approach, whereas it should be the bottom-up approach. The problem with this law is India's waste realities differ sharply across metro cities, villages, hill regions, coastal areas. These are the areas, these are different geographical realities, and every geography is unique. Every village, every hill station, every urban area, every coastal area has their own mechanism to generate garbage and handle garbage. And generation of garbage depends on the social behavior and attitude towards garbage management or the cleanliness. So one national template may not suit at all because every city, every geographical region has a different way to handling their garbage. Now, bureaucratic compliance over ground action. The rule emphasizes digital dashboard maintaining, data reporting, online compliance system, and centralized portals. So what will happen? Instead of the ground reality, bureaucrats will work more and more in data management. And what will happen? In Swachh Sarvekshan Abhiyan, next time Indore will come top the list, whereas on the ground it may fail to meet the expectations. So the concern is many local bodies lack technical staff, internet access, financial capacity, which may lead to better paperwork. I mean, the bureaucrats may end up doing a paperwork or uploading the dashboard, but not necessarily better waste management. Now, third is weakening municipal autonomy. Municipal corporation have got the constitutional mandate. Municipalities may become implementers of centrally designed instruction instead of independent local problem solvers. Now, this weekend's decentralization, subsidiarity principle, and grassroots democracy. India's waste crisis. What are the key challenges here? Overflowing landfills, methane emission, toxic leachate, and air pollution. Urban flooding is also a byproduct of unsustainable waste management in India. Urban flooding is not a standalone topic. Since we do not manage our waste carefully, what happens? All the waste or plastic or garbages end up choking our drainage. When the drainage system is choked, what happens? During flooding season, during rain season, the water does not get a passage to pass from city to the waterways, and because of which the urban flooding has become a recurring theme in Indian urbanization system. So urban flooding, plastic waste block drains, water and soil pollution, untreated waste contaminates ecosystem. Now what the article suggests, the suggestion given by the article is decentralized waste governance. We must have a bottom up approach instead of a top down approach. It will fail and it will succeed. The article supports water ward level segregation, community composting, panchayat led solution, and local recycling ecosystem. Now, citizen participation. Effective waste management needs resident welfare groups, informal waste workers, behavioral change at household, not just bureaucratic monitoring. If we enforce the central government rule across India, across all the level of governance, what will happen? Bureaucrats and the civil servants will end up updating the data instead of working at the ground level. Key concerns highlighted here. Key concerns highlighted: centralization may erode cooperative federalism. Local bodies may face unfunded mandates because local bodies, if they do not meet the criteria given by the central government, their funding may be stopped. Compliance burden may increase and focus shifting from outcomes to reporting. People will pay more attention to compliance instead of the ground reality or change at the ground level. Mnemonic is local, L for local governance, O for over centralization concerns, C for community participation. Article 253A and landfill reduction. So the key target and key objective of this scheme should be reduce landfill dependence, strengthen municipal autonomy, improve source segregation, promote circular economy, and balance environmental goals with federalism. So this is it in this topic. We are going for the next topic. Ahead of UAE visit, PM to meet Iran, FM and BRICS ministers. There isn't any critical information related to this article. Supreme Court launches one case, one data and Sue Sahai chatbot. VVG Ramji, I will cover it later. There is one more article which may be a part of UPSC Prelims 2026. UPSC Prelims 2026. Give me 1 minute please. Let me have a little bit water. Okay, so we will talk about the tiger range countries. China may not join alliance on conservation of big cats. So first we need to understand who are the big cats. Big cats. Who are those big cats and their range countries. Range countries. Then again their status. So let me explain here. When it comes in terms of big cats, what we need to understand, the types or the families of big cats. Then again the next stage will be the range countries. Range countries means where are they found. Then comes their status at IUCN, at Wildlife Protection Act 1972 cites, right? So this is what you have to cover: big cats, types and families, range, countries, status in IUCN, Wildlife Protection Act, and sites. So this is how you have to understand. Now, China may stay out of International Big Cat Alliance. GS paper 3, this part will cover wildlife conservation, protected species, global environmental cooperation, tiger conservation. Prelims focus international big cat alliance, big cat species, and Project Tiger. Now, crux of the article: China is unlikely to join International Big Cat Alliance, a global initiative led by India for conservation of big cats. India invited China, but no progress has been received. No communication has been received from China. Saudi Arabia has confirmed its membership of IBCA. First IBCA summit is to be hosted by India. Now, what is the objective of IBCA? Strengthen global cooperation for conservation of big cats and habitats. Now, what is IBCA? IBCA focus on the conservation of tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar, and puma. Jaguar and puma we do not find in India, right? Rest other big cat species are found in India. Jaguar and puma, they are mainly found in Latin America and Americas. Now, what the focus area is: habitat protection, research and innovation, capacity building, information sharing, and anti-poaching cooperation. Now, why the China is important? China has a very small wild tiger population, approximately 60 or 70, and they are known as Amur tigers, and they are 60 or 70, and they are in captivity. They are not the free range animals. Amur Siberian tigers near Russian border. Estimated population is approximately 50 to 70. Limited participation may weaken regional conservation coordination. Now, India's position: India has 3,167 tigers in 2022. Largest tiger population globally. They are spread across Himalayas, Western Ghats, and Central Indian forest. And India is positioning itself as a global leader in wildlife diplomacy. Remember wildlife diplomacy. Cheetah translocation is also a part of wildlife diplomacy. Now, key concern is habitat loss and fragmentation, poaching and illegal wildlife trade, weak cross-border conservation cooperation, and climate threats to ecosystem. The priorities of IBCA: big cat conservation, habitat restoration, global scientific collaboration, capacity building, and wildlife diplomacy. This is the mind map. Yep. And next is, yep. So these are the heavyweight topics. Boost inbound travel instead of just curbing overseas trips. Jewelry sector bats for gold monetization scheme. Yep. PM Modi calls for pause. Spend on travel abroad already seen sliding. So we are going to cover this particular article, which was also published as a part of sub editorial. So let me go back to that topic. Yes, this is the one. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's suggestion to Indians imply a serious economic impact. In the last 24 hours, Prime Minister Modi said it twice that Indians should stop traveling abroad, Indians should stop buying gold, and Indians should spend fuel consumption in a very responsible manner. So, what does it mean? Are we going to face another COVID-like situation, emergency situation in near future? Are we going to face a fuel shortage to an extent that people will have a mass migration or a reverse migration to the North Indian states? So what is going to happen? Nothing is clear, but people are trying to decipher what Prime Minister Modi was intended to say. So, belated warning: West Asian crisis and India's economy. In UPSC GS paper 3, the topic is related to inflation, forex reserve, external sector, food security. In GS paper 2, it's governance and crisis communication. In essay and interview, the question may be related to leadership during economic crisis. Now, crux of the article criticizes Prime Minister Modi delayed warning on the economic impact of the West Asian crisis. Now, it argues that the government earlier downplayed risk but now asking citizens to reduce fuel use, avoid unnecessary spending, unlimit foreign travel, and use less fertilizer. What government is saying, I mean, what the newspaper says, that earlier Prime Minister Modi and other cabinet ministers, including finance minister, says that India is in a solid position. India is not going to face any such problem due to West Asian crisis. Now, Prime Minister Modi has said it, the same statement twice, which says in every Indian should reduce fuel consumption, avoid unnecessary spending, limit foreign travel, use less fertilizer, and buy less gold. What does that mean? Is it because the state there were state elections? I mean, government of India decided not to declare this emergency. So this signals that economic situation may be more serious than previously projected by the government. Now, key concern: fuel and inflation risk. Possible rise in petrol and diesel prices in near future. It may be just an ultimatum before launching the fuel price. Instead of all of a sudden telling the people that the petrol will be raised, the petrol price will be hiked by 10 rupees, government has given the warning first so that people may come in alert mode. So fuel and inflation risk, possible rise in petrol and diesel prices, higher inflation burden may be passed on to the citizens. Forex and rupee pressure, foreign investors are pulling out of money. It's not that Indians are going abroad too frequently, or it's not because people are buying too much gold. This crisis has arisen. The forex reserve is declining because foreign portfolio investors are taking out of money out of Indian economy, and it has surpassed all the levels. So foreign investors pulling out of money out of Indian market, RBI using reserves to support rupee and pressure on forex reserves. So this crisis, the forex and rupee pressure is not has not come because of Indians spending irresponsibly, Indians buying too much gold, or Indians traveling abroad. Now, agriculture risk, reduced fertilizer use may hurt crop output. El Nino is already knocking the door, so this might lead to food inflation in India. Key takeaway, the article argues that India may face economic stress in coming months. Timely communication is crucial during crisis. Global geopolitics directly impacts India's economy. And this is the mind map. So, team, this is it. This is how we have covered the news analysis today. We'll get back to you with some more topics today itself. Thank you so much. Wish you a wonderful day ahead. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.